All right. Well, before we get started, this will go very much like last week, except for I'm not giving you a lot of introduction because you were all here last week. And hopefully you all have the script in front of you. Does anyone have any questions about anything at this point before we get going? That is a burning question you have about coaching, about the program, about the future. Okay. Well, we'll get going. So the first people who are going to come now, remember, let's just review. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking to practice. We're looking to learn, and we're looking to grow. All of us on the call, whether you're coaching or being coached. So don't worry about messing up or making a mistake, because this is why we do this, so that we all can learn, not just the person who's coaching or being coached, but everybody on the call. So having said that, we'll just let go of beautiful that Tina said, let go of judgment. Exhale judgment, inhale compassion. So I encourage you, because the theme this week is presence, to somehow bring that into the coaching and to practice it yourself, to practice compassion and presence, which of course go together, yourself, and to know that this is just a learning and growing experience. So the first couple of coaches are going to be Lucretia is going to coach Heather Coran. And so starting with the script on 48, of course, we've already done number 1, and you can start right with number 2 on the script, and you could skip number 3, because we're going to assume or act as if this is the second coaching session with Heather Coran. You're not going to ask her about last week or how her commitments are going, but you'll get right into the field of it. So, okay, whenever you're ready, Lucretia and Heather.
Thank you. So hello, Heather. It's good to see you today.
Hey, Lucretia.
Hey. So I know we've gotten started. It's our second time together today. And you know how we like to get started. I would like to hear your 2 words today from your field wheel.
So I was looking at my field wheel. It's been an eventful, I guess, past week for me. And the current words for today, when I took a peek, were optimistic and creative.
Well, in either order, tell me why you chose those 2 words today.
So we'll start with the first one. So optimistic, I believe I shared last week. So my husband had surgery on Friday, and overall it was, since Friday has presented its challenges in many ways. However, he is doing well, and yesterday I became a little bit more optimistic, just because of his ability to get up and move and have mobility, and doing a few more things for himself that I'm not having to do for him. Not that I don't mind doing them for him, but it was good for him to see that he's getting back to be able to do a few things, small things, but celebration. So I'm optimistic for him right now, because my mind has truly been focused on him since Friday, and taking care of him, his surgery.
Well, thank you for sharing about your husband, and glad that he's doing better. You know, as we want to look at ourselves and care for ourselves, how have you practiced that compassion? I know you've been compassionate with your husband. How have you shown yourself compassion during this time with your husband?
Yeah, so it's really hard for me to ask for help. And one of the things that I committed to was allowing my mom to help me with Luke. And so she took him and picked him up from school on Friday while Chris was at surgery, and took him to her house in Virginia this past weekend. And I really was able to have intentional time with Chris of doing the hard things. And I'm so glad he was there because it was so emotional. Chris would be crying for a minute with pain, and then I'd be crying because I'm like, I can't help you. So I'm really, really glad that I didn't have that other aspect of caring for Luke in addition to caring for that. So for myself, that was helpful for myself because I was able, when Chris was resting, I was able to rest and not have to be a mom as well as a wife. So that was something of, I guess, compassion for myself, was being able to say yes for help and taking those moments.
Oh, I lost your audio, Heather. I lost those
Can you
last
hear
few.
me?
I can hear you now.
It's
Thank you.
back now. Okay, that was me.
Well, again, thank you, Heather, for sharing that. And I heard you say that, it's hard for you to ask for help. So let's stay in that space just a little bit. What things have you put into practice to help you, knowing that with compassion, we have to be able to ask for help? What things have you put into practice to help you to ask for help?
I think knowing it's okay, I guess, in this period that I'm in right now, I have been beyond grateful for the people who have sent messages and who have just been praying and saying, I'm here with you if you need anything. That has been very helpful for me to know that people care and that I can reach out to people because they really want to help me, and I see the benefit of that. So while I don't have a necessarily plan of saying I'm going to reach out to this person by this date and get that settled, I know that I can, and I see the benefit of letting people help me through this past weekend.
As I know, and you don't have to share this, you haven't shared, how long your husband will be recovering and healing. So again, hearing the challenge for you to ask for help, and you're saying that you have people reaching out for you to offer their assistance. Again, what are your thoughts about putting something into practice to kind of hardwire that as you have many days ahead to care for your husband and not want to lose the compassion for yourself? Would you like to have a practice?
So celebrating, not necessarily with that, but I am taking a POW day tomorrow. And that's for myself, but also for Chris, because Luke will be at school. And so while Chris is resting, I can rest as well. So finding time on my calendar on days that perhaps I can truly not have to come to work, to the hospital. I plan on doing that as well occasionally, if it's one day a week or what that looks like right now while he can't drive and take care of himself.
Okay, I'm going to stop you here. So really great, obviously, with this situation, Lucretia, really good that you are tapping into compassion and compassion for self. That's a really good lead in. I'm going to invite you to ask to somehow weave presence in now, since that's the theme for this week. And you can go ahead and ask about the creative part, but because compassion and presence are certainly related. So how would you, and if you're lost or you're stuck, then just say so. But how could you lead this conversation now into presence?
Mm-hmm. So Heather, thank you for talking about your compassion for yourself. Excited to hear that you're going to have a POW day coming up soon. How have you maintained that presence? Again, your husband has had surgery most recently, and you wanted to be there for him. You even shared that you had Luke to go be with family while you are there with your husband. How have you put that practice of presence into work with your husband and for yourself?
Well, because I have learned about presence and how impactful it is, not only for myself, but for others, of how I'm showing up and being really intentional and focused on being present. Because, you know, my mind's not going 1,000 miles a minute doing other things, but having those set times to take a break, to take a breather, to refocus myself, so that I'm mindful, I suppose, of just being grounded. I don't know. I feel like my life events right now have helped me to really be present in the moment.
And can you just share a little more about that? You know, how have those life moments helped you to be present in the moment, your presence?
By slowing down, it's forced me to slow down, to grab hold of thoughts, and when I'm slowing down, then I can be present.
And your second word today, you mentioned being creative. Your word is creative. So let's talk about, you know, how you're going to be present with the slowing down that you're needing. What's a creative way that you can put into practice that presence?
So interestingly enough, the word creative is related to what I have to do tomorrow. I'm going to Leek School to teach about character education, and I printed off, guess what I have to do tomorrow? Tomorrow I'm teaching about respect. And look, part of the thing, can y'all see my thing right here? Do y'all see these emotional elements?
Yes.
That
So
looks like the feel wheel, but with animation.
It is. And so I get to do this tomorrow with 7 and 8 year olds about how they feel and what respect looks like. So in my spare time lately, of preparing for tomorrow, I'm trying to be creative and making this meaningful for Luke and his friends at school, but also what a great reminder for myself that this is important for everyone, of taking care of our own well-being. And I don't know, when this came up that it was my week to do this, I thought how pertinent and how remindful for myself to be creative in my own well-being and others' well-being. And I've had to be very creative about how to take care of Chris, of how to do bed baths, of how to just unique ways that are out of the ordinary. So definitely creativity has been a spark of interest these days.
Yes. And look, I'm happy to see that you put emojis to our field wheel. So look, I'm going to bring us back to you, Heather. I know as our time is kind of getting close to an end, but would love to hear, again, I want to get you to a concrete plan for how you're going to demonstrate this presence for yourself, leadership, on these next several days of this week. So what plan do you have in mind?
I think it's easy because of all the responsibilities or more responsibilities that will have on my shoulders, of being mindful of presence. Like, so for last night, for instance, being present for myself by I took about 15 minutes outside when I got home and just sat. I got grounded with myself and just thought about the day, let go of some things, and then preparing myself to be present while at home and for today at work, looking at my calendar. What do I need to do to be present? So I'm not checking through all of my lists in my head. That was helpful for me to take that time to find presence.
Okay, so I heard two things there. The plan for presence of where you got yourself grounded at home, you sat for about 15 minutes. How did that make you feel when you did that 15 minutes outside?
I didn't want it to end. Because the sun was setting and I just had my hot tea, and it was just a really good time to just sit and reflect so that I could be present. I was present with myself. I was doing it for myself so that I could be more present for my family. Life gets heavy sometimes, and so taking that time for myself was really important.
So
Okay,
how,
I'll stop you right there. I'll stop you right there. Really good. So how do you feel, like this is going, Lucretia? How do you feel?
I would say, with us, being as well versed as we are in like the self-leadership and we know our CPR, I I don't know how well I did with kind of getting Heather to that concrete, because that's what would have been the last piece of, we found that spot that was helping her with her presence. So getting those SMART goals around that seating of being outside for 15 minutes. And then that second thing that I heard was she also was doing some presence practice at work with looking at her calendar. So how to get that kind of grounded for her. So that would have been those two things. But I don't know. It was awkward for me.
Of
This
course, of course.
I do love being able to be like second day that we were doing this, because I was able to observe the first day with those two groups that went, and then so I knew that this was going to be my day, and so I was trying to listen to hear those nuggets that Heather was letting me hear.
Okay, so this is the practice that we all have to practice. Listening to words she said, and you got really what you did really well at the concrete. You had a very calm voice. You were listening, but listening to the words, because a big word that she said was slow down. Slowing down, you cannot be in a rush and be present, because when we're in a rush, our mind's in a rush. So, and Heather said, be mindful, be present, slow down. But see, slow down is an action. It's easy to say we're present, but how do we slow down? How do you slow down? How do you slow your mind down? Getting outside, watching the sunset, that's one way. So and you got there, but I'm just giving feedback about really keying into what they say. What about slowing down? How do you slow down? I mean, how do you slow down? We could say, oh, I just got to slow down. I just got to get in shape. I just got to eat better. But how do you do that? And what do you do? And then you eventually got to it. But so that's the feedback that I have, is really, and so it seemed that you were working through, but this time goes so quickly, that we want to hear them and then really focus on what they're saying, and then instead of goals or what was the other word, something concrete, a really good word is either action step or commitment. What do you want to commit? What practice of presence would you like to commit to for the next week? What do you think a presence skill to practice this week would be most helpful to you? Goals and concrete, it sounds a little scary. Like, oh God, one more thing I have to do. So it's the way we're doing things, not necessarily more things to do, but the way we're doing the things already that we're doing. Does that make sense, Lucretia?
Yes, it does.
Now, there's a good news and bad news about as we go along. I get more picky. So I'm because I'm first it's very broad and general, and now so it went very well. Let's hear what Heather has to say. Heather Coran, how did you feel about that? How did it feel to you? And be honest, how did it feel?
Yeah, I wanted to tell Lucretia, because being in her shoes last week, yes, it does feel awkward, because I feel like you're searching for the right words that's in this without reading the script, and I think that's what makes it awkward. But Lucretia, for me, it didn't feel awkward. Just so you know, it didn't feel that way for me. I really felt like you were listening to me. You were taking note of, I want to follow back up with that. You circled back around to concerns I had, or celebrated things that I had accomplished this past week. And you inquired. And so for me, it it felt real, it felt meaningful. And I do think it's helpful that we know each other, like we know each other. I think that's a little bit helpful. Yet it also makes it awkward that we do know each other. So I guess that's a complex, but for me overall, it felt okay.
What did you learn? What did you learn, Heather, with this coaching session, if anything?
Again, it goes back to the reminders of, I mean, I feel like I'm broken wheel, but I've read Word of Advice. Reading through the manual multiple times is very helpful. I'm beginning to do that, and the constant repeat is how I think we're going to succeed, by constantly reading and rereading the verbiage. Because the more I read this, I feel like you're speaking to me, Diane, because I know you personally. And so now I'm like, oh, this is Diane speaking. These are her words. It's exactly right. And so the repetition is so real. And so for me, what I learned is how important the accountability is. And we talk about accountability a lot because we have to be held accountable to how is our well-being. And this refocuses with what I'm personally going through. It holds me accountable to make sure I'm taking care of myself, and to really be present with myself before I can be present with Chris and Luke or work.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Thank you for the validation. It's simple, and it just repeat. And when I hear you saying it's practice, we just practice. It's repeat, we just practice. We just keep practicing. And Heather Coran, do you think if you hadn't been practicing CPR before Chris's surgery, for the last 10 months, off and on, but for the last 10 months you've been involved in this, do you think that your experience right now would be a little different?
Absolutely. I mean, at last point, I was doing grounding exercises with Chris while he was laying in the bed. I'm like, you got to let this go. Like, we need to do this right here. And I know that sounds crazy. And he was like, I don't think I need that. And I'm like, no, you do. Like, we got to work on this.
Well, good.
So,
Good. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I love the fact that not only with your husband and your son, but you get to share the feel wheel, which is the little emojis. I would like a copy of that if you could send that to us, to the group. Welcome, Heather Whitlock. If you could send that to us, I think that would be helpful, because not just for 7 and 8 year olds. It's just a different way of expression. And you're right. This is for everybody. It's not just for nurse leaders. It's for everyone. But we start with who we know best. We start with ourselves, and then we start to reach out. So Lucretia, do you have any questions or anything else you want to say before we move on?
No, I agree with Heather, practice. And so I will be practicing more in this because I do find the value in this. And I can say too that just some of the things that's come, I think Heather used the word life challenges. Life has challenges. And because I've been with CPR, it has helped me with these challenges. So I'm grateful. Good.
Well, good. It works if you work it. If you don't do it, it doesn't work. No change. So Heather Whitlock, just to catch you up for a moment, we are going right through the coaching today, and the overall theme is presence, because it's P, even though we know everything is connected. And so you're coaching today, Heather Whitlock. Are you ready, or would you rather ground and go third? I'll give you the choice.
I can do either. We can go ahead and start. That's fine.
Okay, all right. Well, we're doing the same script, 48, starting with 48. We've already done 1. Tina led us through a grounding. So you'll start with 2, and you can skip 3 because not going to be the first session, and you're going to be coaching Kim Brooks. So I'll let you just get going, and I want to make sure we get to the to the end, to the commitment piece about, the action steps, what we just talked about with Lucretia. So go ahead and get started and we'll go from there.
And so we don't have to do number 3, about the confidentiality,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, because this is like the second, we'll assume this is the second week.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Hey, Kim, it's good to see you today.
Hi, Heather. Good to see you too.
So let's get started with our Feel Wheel 2-word check-in. What are you feeling today?
Tired and rushed.
Tell me about that.
Tired because I had a best friend that was in the hospital for over a week, and it's taken me 2 weeks since she's gotten out to get to see her. And I usually stay with her, and she now is anemic. And so her heat was set on 80 this weekend in South Carolina. And so I'm tired because I didn't rest well. It was too warm.
Sure.
I didn't rest well starting Saturday. And then I'm rushed because I had said last week that before this session that I needed to be in my own home. And I'm not. So I was like, dang, I forgot that I wanted to be home for Tuesday mornings. So just rushed to get everything together and situated someplace else.
Gotcha. I fit, do I do my 2 words too, Diane?
No, you do not, Heather. This is
Okay.
not about you.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I wanted to make sure. I didn't want to
Good question.
So, what do you feel that you need support with today?
Well, I think that I just need to slow down. I'm a procrastinator, so that's one of my main reasons for feeling rushed as well. And I think that once I just realize that this is the work week, it has started, that I will just woosah and go ahead and lead right into it. So just focus on what is in front of me and what I'm doing right now will help, I believe.
What do you think would be a good first thing to focus on to be present and start your work week?
I think that the time blocking time is the best thing for me that I've learned so far. It helps me to focus on everything at that time. I'll know then that there's nothing that I'm leaving out, because if it is something that I'm leaving out, that means I don't have time for it today and I can get to it another time. But it keeps me, at least I know that the important things will be taken care of. So that's what I'll do.
And you mentioned that you are not currently in your space. Do you see that changing soon, or the ability to change?
Well, I do. I stay at my friend's house every now and then. We went out of town together, so I'm over here at his house. But yeah, I will be back in my place as well. So sometimes I'm over in High Point and sometimes I'm in McLeansville. So yeah, which
I'm
can be a
gonna
little
stop you right
frustrating.
here. I'm gonna stop you right here. And really conversational, Heather, very conversational, getting right to it. Again, this listening about the words, and this is practice. This takes real practice for all of us. But I'm going to ask you how you could get a little more specific with Kim's time blocking, because she's told us that she's a procrastinator, that she's tired and rushed, that she needs to slow down and she needs to focus on what's in front of her with time blocking. But time blocking is another thing like slowing down. It's kind of vague. So I'm going to invite you to go back to time blocking and ask her specifically what she's going to time, get very specific about it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so go ahead.
So Kim, I wanted to circle back. You mentioned time blocking as being a good first step. How, what does that look like for you? Like, how could you make sure you make that happen?
I think that, well, I will today, for instance, I th- I think it would be beneficial for the rest of this week to finish, and because I don't have to go to work until tonight. So I feel like if I sit down today and actually document everything, all of the duties and tasks that I see that I need to get done this week, and go ahead and allot the time starting today, and just start doing that at the beginning of the week, even though I left Monday out, and yeah, I should have done it Monday, but for the rest of the week, I will time block all of the important things that I need to do before the end of this week.
And when you say time block, do you do it like on your phone in an electronic calendar, or do you have like a paper calendar, color coordinated, or what's the best way for you to time block?
Mine is on the phone, but when you said paper calendar, color coordinated, that sound really well. I was like, that could work for me. It's more visual than my work email that I've seen so many of my partners use. I do, and I know that people write it down too, but I look at work emails when at the initial of our meeting with Diane, and I can see all of everything's filled in on the WebEx or the web screen for the calendar using one calendar. So I started doing that. So that has helped. I don't use 3 different calendars anymore. So I'm picking up pieces as we go. And maybe using the work calendar for everything and using a paper calendar that I can actually put my hands on and flip the pages and, color code coordinate would be good. So I might consider doing that, because I have taken one bit of the information that I got from my commitment partner.
That's great. I think sometimes being able to see it a little different, not just monotonous black and white, it's like, oh, sometimes the attitude you take with things, like instead of I have to, I get to. And it's hard to say that. It's hard to say, oh, I get to do laundry today from 2 to 4. But just bringing in the thankfulness part of life. So what does the rest of your week other than work look like?
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right here. So again, keying into these words, because Kim said, I might try that. That really isn't a commitment. I might try that. It's vague. So I'm going to invite you to get really specific with Kim, because this is a challenge for her. This is, and you know this, Kim, this is a challenge for you. And you're being really vague, because then you don't have to actually make a commitment. So how can you encourage Kim to make a very specific commitment about how she's going to time block to get the most important things done this week?
Okay. Do you have a piece of paper handy, Kim?
I do.
Do you have at least 3 colored utensils right now?
Not in front of me, but I may. I have my pencil pouch here. Actually, I do. I love
Okay,
I love colored pencils and pens, so I do.
so what about, so today is Tuesday, and you're going to
Mhm.
work tonight. So let's start you get off at 7:30 in the morning. Are you usually gone by then?
About 8 o'clock.
About 8 o'clock?
Mhm.
Okay, and what time do you generally try to lay down?
This is gonna get me in trouble with Diane. I usually go to bed at about 10:30, 11.
Okay. So what two things can you accomplish between 8 AM and 10:30 AM?
Tomorrow, you mean?
Tomorrow morning, yes, after you've worked tonight. I mean, because I'm hoping you'll take a little rest before you go into work today.
Mhm.
Okay, so stop there. So, remember when we're coaching, we want her to come up with a plan, not you to come up with a plan. So, this is how you would think, which is great, but we want Kim to come up with a plan because that's gonna be more meaningful to her. So could you say, how, how are you gonna time block these what does that look like specifically? Not I might try, but how does it look? What are you willing to commit to? Do you see the difference, Heather?
Mhm.
Okay. So go ahead.
Okay, so we're gonna move to Wednesday. What are you willing to commit to from 8 AM to 10:30 AM? What two things could you get done during that time?
Well, I don't know yet, to be honest, because I haven't done the time blocking. So I know that I will commit today to give in, because I don't go to work until 7. So I will commit today between 1 and 3 to time block the rest of my week. So I'm not sure what that will be for tomorrow yet, but I will time block the rest of my week in those 2 hours today between 1 and 3. So I'm setting 1 to 3 today. I'm time blocking that part to work on my schedule.
Is it okay to ask if she's gonna rest or not?
I don't think so.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you think? What do you think, Heather?
I don't want her to be tired going to work.
But this isn't about you, Heather.
I know.
So what we have to keep in mind here is who's in front of us is not going to do it the way we're going to do it, is not going to think the way we think. And this is important. So I'm using you as an example, but we all do this. I want to tell her exactly how she could do it and stop procrastinating, but she's got to figure it out. So
Tell me, just tell me though.
Look, but see, as a fellow procrastinator on specific things, I have great ideas for other people, not
Yeah,
necessarily.
of course you
good
do.
for
Of
myself.
course you do. So I don't think it actually is, do you think it's really critical that you ask her about rest? Because we're talking about time blocking here and about
No,
slowing down, and that just kind of goes up, you can go off a bunny trail, then we can get on a whole thing about rest.
gotcha.
So, coming back to what she keeps saying, what she said in the beginning about being tired and rushed and a procrastinator and not being able to focus. So what I hear her saying, what do you hear her saying about her commitment for today?
That she's committing from 1 PM to 3 PM today to look at the rest of her week and get some things in order.
To time block.
It may not be
Exactly.
every single thing that needs to happen, but she's going to make a list and put it in her time blocks.
Right. And I would probably ask even more. So when you time block, does this mean you're going to time block from 1 to 3 every day? Are you going to time block, your waking hours? I mean, we can't time block every minute of the day. That isn't realistic. But the most important things, time blocking is really, so I'm just going to ask you one more question about this. And the reason I'm doing this is because, the more vague we are, the more unlikely we are to actually do something. It's too general, it's too vague, it doesn't happen. So the more specific, especially when Kim's already told you some of her challenges. So what's one more question you could get really specific around this time blocking?
Like to ask about each specific day, or are you meaning like the Because she's already said she's not exactly 100% sure about what activities she wants to time block.
Okay, so today, today she's committed to 1 to 3.
Mhm.
You know, what is the rest, even though you don't know what they are, but what does the rest of the week look like? You know, I mean, in your mind, are you thinking you're gonna time block 2 hours for things you have to use? Just getting really specific, not maybe about the activity, but about the time commitment. What are you committing to time blocking and then keeping? Because it's scheduling. I mean, that's what it's scheduling. And if we don't schedule things, especially things we procrastinate on, we don't do them. Trust me, I know this. So that's what I mean. What's another question you could ask her just to kind of really get very specific with Kim, so she can focus on specifics this week.
All right, Kim, what are on Thursday, or what's today, Tuesday, on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, what are going to be your time block hours? What time of the day will you commit to time block?
Well, what I was thinking when I said time blocking, and maybe that's different from, because I'm not as versed on doing that as it seems like a lot are. So I was thinking that today I would do the time blocking for everything for the rest of the week. And like at the beginning of each week, take a couple of hours and everything that's on my calendar, the things that I want to do, make time for those each day. And then I know that sometimes you may have to adjust things because, you know, things come up. But I was hoping that today between 1 and 3, I could just time block for the rest of the week, not have to do it each day, because I don't think I would do it each day. I think that I would have to look at my calendar for this week only right now, and then focus on this week and time block what's on my calendar for this week. While we were on the call, I got a call from Gifford Orthopedic for an appointment at 9:30 in the morning. So I was like, okay, and I wrote that down because I had to go off camera to talk to them. And so now that has been added. And so just things, and look back at the calendar and just get all the things in for this week. And then try to focus on next week is what I was planning to do. So it'll include a lot of things. It'll include appointments for the dogs. Will include studying, and you know, and work activities as well, and time for myself. So that's what I want. I hope to
Okay,
get.
so we'll stop right here. So Heather, how do you feel like this is going? How does it feel to you?
I think she has a good plan in place and those pop-up things could possibly derail. I mean, when somebody, you have to have an appointment, what you really wanted to get done during that time is now it's changed, and you have to move what was going to happen then to another part of the day.
Okay. How do you feel about the coaching, the interaction? How do you feel about your interaction about coaching today? How does it feel to you?
I feel like it's gone well. I mean, I need to keep in mind not to, well, when are you going to rest? Those kind of things, but.
Okay, good, very conversational.
I get asked all the time, believe me, all the time. I get asked those questions. When are you gonna rest?
Kim, how do you feel that this is going?
I think it's going great. I think that I'm probably more like the people that I'm gonna be asking, really vague, and you just, I don't know, it's gonna be I feel like it's gonna be a little challenging. So not that it's, trying to be that way. It's just that because I'm trying to think of it as I go, and I am wanting to succeed. So I want to do these things that I'm saying, and thinking about them the whole time. But in my mind, it's like, okay, now Kim, you got to do this. You just said you were going to do it, and you hadn't thought about that all, the whole time. But so I don't know. I think it went well though, because everything's gonna be, nobody's gonna really flow into it perfectly all the time. The
No,
answers that
we're
you
not
want to
going for
hear.
that.
Yeah.
So when you say you really want to succeed, are you talking about as being a coach or as being a coachee and doing the things that you say you're going to do? Which succeed are you talking about?
Both, because I'm learning from both. So I want to
Okay.
succeed at both. I want to succeed at being a coach. I want to learn these things and listen and practice them myself,
Okay.
So that's what I'm really saying. I don't want to be lying to Heather. I really do want a time block between 1 and 3 today. So I'm holding myself accountable that I'm going to do that,
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's one.
And so everyone finds their own way. And so let me just give feedback, that very conversational for both of you. And of course, the advantage is here, I know Kim, I mean, and I know all of you really well. And when you're coaching someone, you get to know someone really well. And you get to know, if you were listening, if they tend to be a little vague. Especially, of course, we're vague with something that challenges us. Of course, that's why it challenges us, because we're vague and we don't want to do it. We're resistant. We're all resistant. We all have, it's a resistance that comes up. And so keying into that, and the more resistant you are, or vague someone who's in front of you, the more specific you have to be with them. Just really asking them, what does that look like? Okay, you're going to time block 1 to 3 today for the rest of the week. What does that look like? And then you're going to adjust, which is, a good point. And you validated that, Heather. It's a good point. Of course, life comes up, but it's some place to start. So time blocking only works if you work it. If you actually write it down and then you do it. And then if something has to change, then something has to change. But this is a big deal for us procrastinators. And usually high performers do procrastinate on some things because we have so much to do. So we just procrastinate on the things we don't want to do. So this is, it's a big one. And I guess the only other thing I would say when Kim was talking about slowing down and is somehow bringing presence into the conversation, since that's the theme this week. But otherwise, really good, really good. And if you just the vagueness, it's just so important to not let that slide, and stop it, and we all need it. We all need it to be very specific. Well, when are you going to do that, and what does that look like for you? Anybody have anything else to share in the group for Kim and Heather? Okay, I'm sorry, we're 15 minutes late for a bio break, but let's take 5. Is 5 okay for everybody?
Yes.
So 5 after the hour, and we'll be back for our third group. Okay, welcome back, everybody. And I see I'm blurry. Let me get out and then you'll come back in. Before we start, Heather Whitlock is one person I wanted to ask. I just want to remember, I know Heather, well, and she's off audio. Are you out the next week, Heather Whitlock?
What did you say, Diane?
Are you unable to attend next week? Is that correct? The 22nd?
Yes.
Okay, is anybody else not able to be here the 22nd, next Tuesday? Kim, you cannot be here either?
No, I just got an email saying that I have a mandatory notary class that I have to attend on the 22nd.
Okay. So that's fine. It's good for me to know ahead of time. So obviously I don't plan on you, playing in a role. And we'll record like we always do, but we will have a makeup session for you two, and whoever else has to miss one at the end, we'll schedule that. So good to know. Okay, thank
Hey,
you.
Diane.
Yes.
I was going to bring up today, I do have on the 29th for our next one, our new med center is opening with our new urgent care in it. And that's like the grand opening that my boss has requested us all go to. I might get back in time to be able to join at 10, but there is a chance I might have to miss that one with it being our grand opening. So
Okay, good to know. Good to know. And I know that life comes up and that's fine. And so we'll have a makeup for everybody who had to miss one. Obviously live is best, but we'll figure it out and you can look at the recording too. Okay, so next up we have Tina Johnson coaching Erin. So and what I'll probably do, you get started, Tina, and then I'll probably do so we can make sure we can finish to the end. So go ahead and whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Erin. It's good to see you. How are you today?
Good morning, Tina. Good to
Stop. We're not going to say how are you today, right?
Oh,
I know because we don't pay attention. So start over again.
good morning, Erin. It's nice to see you today.
Good morning, Tina. Good to see you as well.
It does say how are you on the thing. It just doesn't say how are you today.
No, it says nice to see you versus how are you versus.
Oh, dang.
But I noticed that no one gets that. Heather Coran did the same thing last week. So I'm going to change that. And you could just cross out how are you. And
But I have it highlighted in green because that's what I want to say, but then I just kept reading.
it's okay. It's okay. No, it's learning from me. I'm gonna take it out because we'll just see that. So okay.
Okay. So we want to get started with your 2-word check-in. Do you have your feel wheel handy?
Yes, Tina. So looking at my feel wheel, my 2 words are stressed and hopeful today.
Stressed and hopeful. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So in case you hadn't heard or been aware, the Joint Commission came and they surveyed our Greensboro market. And there's been a lot of action plans and a lot of time-consuming meetings around our action plan and what we will submit as a response to the Joint Commission. And that's been kind of stacked on top of all the other stuff that we're doing. And it's caused me a lot of stress because with some of our action plan work, I don't feel like we're really solving for the why. I think we're putting Band-Aids and things just to pacify an action plan. And that has me very stressed that we're not really fixing things due to the immediate turnaround time needed.
Okay, but you are feeling hopeful about something?
Yes, I'm feeling hopeful just overall that we're going to be able to submit an action plan. We're going to come out of conditional, like we're going to do it. I just think I haven't heard our internal action for the long-term future fixing our opportunities. And that's, again, just it's a concern for me as a leader and someone that wants to support our frontline staff.
Right. Okay, so thinking about what you have going on, because it sounds like a lot, what do you feel like you need to get out of this session today in regards to being present?
So with being present for myself, when I'm stressed, I move really fast, and my brain is a fast mover normally. And when I'm stressed, the squirrel that's in there some days goes even more quick. And taking time to pause and reflect on my feelings is something I don't do when I'm stressed. I don't do that well. So that would be an action I could take to help really, especially these next few days.
Okay, and so what does that look like for you? How best could you accomplish that pausing and reflecting throughout your day?
Perhaps before a meeting, I take time to do grounding and ensure that I'm coming from, I have good emotions. I don't bring emotions from a previous meeting into the next meeting, and I'm really able to kind of clear my canvas of emotions between meetings and, acknowledge, digest, and file away the not so good feelings.
Okay, so I heard you say the word perhaps. Is there a stronger word that you could use to make sure that you put this practice into place?
Yes, I can use the word commit. And before, if I see like I have a meeting that's on my calendar today at, 2:30, that I am very confident there will be some sort of joint commission discussion occur. Adding to my calendar 5 minutes of time before meetings for grounding, like putting it on my calendar.
So that's a good step, committing to that. Do you see any pitfalls that you might want to anticipate for that to make sure that it's happening for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I do well with accountability partners. So like my assistant director, she's somebody I can be like, look, I need your help to make sure I'm doing this. I'm gonna say I'm gonna do it. She can see my calendar, she can see everything on it. And so enrolling an accountability partner to do check-ins would ensure that that's completed before every meeting.
Okay, that's a good idea, but I know that your assistant director may not be there every day. So in that case, how can we eliminate her as a resource to make sure that it's on you to get that done for you?
I think going through and putting it on my calendar is going to be step one. And then knowing that if I don't do it, I'm the one that's going to suffer from not, like, I'm the only one that's going to suffer from not doing it, right? Like, this is something ultimately that, to your point, it's for my benefit. And it's on my calendar, and I need to just be accountable and do it. Did that answer your question a little bit?
It does.
That was a hard one. That made me think. Yeah.
We sometimes want to lean on others, but we have to make sure that we can keep that in the forefront of our mind, correct? So
So stop for a moment, I'm just gonna stop you here. This is a really excellent opportunity to bring in, what self-leadership is, because everything you're saying, Tina, right on, accountability, it's on you. So how could you bring self-leadership into this conversation now, just as a reminder?
So we use the word accountability a lot. Accountability to ourselves, accountability to our staff. So as being a good self-leader, what does that accountability look like to you to say, I'm going to take care of myself?
It means prioritizing myself, my presence before these meetings, because this is something I want to be an exceptional leader and I want to show up in the best way. And I can't do that if I don't have the self-leadership to practice presence and putting it on the calendar and making it a non-negotiable. Sorry, this is my grounding time. And not just 5 minutes that I say, oh, cool, let me get something else done, but really prioritizing myself.
Good, good. So I know around meetings and making sure that you're grounding and getting yourself set for the next meeting. Are there other areas where you're struggling with presence right now? Could it be home or anywhere else?
Yeah, home is very busy for me, and I do struggle in the evenings. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and the roles of leader and mom and wife sometimes intersect way more than I want them to and way more than they need to. Between my phone, having that out when I'm at home, trying to answer that one last little email or text or whatever comes through, and not being real present with my children in the evenings.
Okay, so give me an action plan around that for home, what do you think you could do to make being present at home a priority?
So what I have been working on with my coaching is leaving my phone in my work bag, and like we have a mudroom and just hanging it up. And I don't even get it out of the front pocket. And that way it gives me time, just a few minutes to talk to my kids. How was your day? What was the best part of your day? Tell me something good that you did. And it just to connect and engage with them without my phone being attached to me and buzzing and distracting.
That's very good. Have you tried doing that? Have you committed to doing that already?
I have committed, and I have had days where I have done really well with it, and I have had days that I have not. And so I need consistency around that practice.
Okay. So remember, we're not going to get it right all the time. Have you been able to practice compassion on those for yourself on those days when you're not able to meet that benchmark?
I have, so for example, last night had gotten home. I got home later. Kids were already at home with my husband. And I noticed my phone was out, and it just took that time of oh, this is not what I said I was going to do. Putting it away. And then we're a very huggy family. So I was like, come in. It's not like my 10-year-old, he's a mama's boy, and he still snuggles. And I'm like, just come here and let's talk about your day. And just in that moment, correcting it and knowing I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And what can I do right this second to correct that?
Very good. I am glad that you're practicing that good self-leadership and giving yourself some compassion and some grace, and you're able to move forward from that. So I just want to nail down a couple things for you. So at work, what is your commitment to yourself this week around presence?
My commitment is to review my calendar, meetings that I know are around Joint Commission or that I know are maybe just some tougher meetings. I will put 5 minutes before each of those slots is grounding. We'll say just grounding, and I will have self-leadership and accountability to give myself time for grounding before those meetings and prioritize it. And at home, I commit to keeping my phone in my bag when I get home and giving my kids their full mom attention that they deserve and that they need and that I really want to give them. And knowing that everything else is, no one's going to die if I don't have my phone out and answer something immediately.
That's very good. I'm glad that you're committing to that. And I just want to touch base on how much time do you think you'll need to adjust your calendar, so to speak, to get those 5 minutes on there? Is that something that you need to do every day? Is that something that you can do at the beginning of the week? What does that look like to make sure that it's occurring?
So I commit to doing it weekly. So on Mondays when I come in, a lot of times that's when I review, what's going on for the week. So right now I can see my calendar and I can see little spaces I need to go in and add grounding. So I commit to doing that today, by 12 o'clock and for the rest of the week. And then I'll start on Monday and review each week and just put the grounding before those meetings.
Okay, so really good. So how are you going to end this now, Tina? What's the last question you want to ask Erin?
I don't know. I already asked her, what are you committing to? What does that look like?
Number 8.
Oh, closing. Okay. Well, that is great work today, Erin. I am proud of you for committing and putting those things into place. Is there anything that stands out to you today that was real meaningful to you?
The reminder and the focus of presence. It was not in the forefront of my mind before this call, and now you have helped me remember why it is so important. So thank you.
Very good, very good. Well, I look forward to seeing you next week. Remember your 5 minutes of grounding before your meeting. And if you need anything in the meantime, just holler, okay?
Right.
Okay. So, Tina, how'd you feel about that?
Oh my gosh, I psyched myself up a lot. And I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna lead the grounding so that I don't have to do this. And then you called my name and I was like, what? I got gypped. But it really wasn't that bad. And just keeping it conversational was good. I struggled with, so I am a note taker, but I often take too many notes. So I was trying to like write stuff down, but then also I'm trying to pay attention at the same time. So I will work on getting that together, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything and could go back, especially, when we meet again to follow up on those things. Hey, how did this work? How did that work? But yes, keeping it conversational and just like some of the things that she was saying brought me back to when I was being coached and like being present at home, putting the phone away. It's good that Erin has two phones. My work phone is my regular phone. So
Oh, no, I don't. I only have,
No, she doesn't.
oh man, how do you get through life putting your phone away? But anyway, so yes, the learning from her, just put it away and don't bother with it at all if you can, especially during those moments when you want to give your undivided attention to something else. So yeah, I feel good about it and I look forward to practicing more.
Good, good. Very conversational, very smooth, asking, and really honing in on the presence. And you let her drive, and then getting really specific about, so what can you commit to? And that's an interesting way to do at home and work, because she mentioned both home and work. So at the end, that was a really good summary. I invite you to pay attention. This is for all of us, not to say I, because it's not about, and we want to say I. We want to say, well, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I want you to do this. I'm proud of you for this. We want to say that because we're people, and that's how we converse. And to practice not to say I, because you always want to bring it back to them. How do you feel about this? What do you think would be a good way? What can you commit to? Good work today, great way to sum up. Good work today, and what did you learn? And not, is there anything that stands out for you? We don't want to say that because that gives them an out. We want to say, what did you learn today? Or what had the most meaning for you today? So that we're asking an open-ended question, because they could say, if you say, is there anything that was most meaningful? They could say, no, not really. We don't really want, it's not a yes or no, it's always the open-ended questions, right? And again, the advantage and disadvantage of going later is that I'm pickier but I'm just pointing out things for all of us to consider, that again, not perfection, but to key in on and not make it about us. And we want to say and show, oh, I know exactly what you mean. And you didn't do that, Tina. You didn't say, oh, I struggle with the same exact thing. It's not necessary. It just takes up time. So good work. Erin, how did you feel about that as the coachee?
I thought it went well. Tina, you're very safe, I think is the best word I can use to describe, like just encouraging. I feel like I can really be honest with you. There were a few times that you really challenged me to like go deeper, but it wasn't like one of those where it was like, oh my gosh, leave me alone. I've already told you my answer. But really it was like, let's keep digging together. And I just appreciated how you like, so many times it's like, oh, I'll get this person to be accountability. And you really turned it back to me and my self-leadership. Like everyone in the chat's like, you're a natural, and totally agree with that. Like you're very easy to talk to.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And that you bring up something really important, Erin. We absolutely always want to create a safe space, and safety in our voice, but safety in our presence, safety in our compassion. It's we walk the talk, not only role modeling this in every other time of our life, but especially when we're coaching, because we, people pay more attention to what you do than what you say. And that's why we don't say much, just the next question as coaches, and the next question, the next question. And that's how our coachee learns, because they come to it to themselves. So good work, Erin, and thanks for sharing a vulnerable about how you're feeling. And did you feel different from the time you started your coaching to the time you left to the end, just in those few minutes? Did you feel different?
I did. I really was like, the Joint Commission is stressful, is how I was like. I'm very like, just, it is what it is. And Tina helped me find an action I can put in place, like right now, that will help before these meetings and before the stress builds. So absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you seem different. I mean, did you notice, Tina, her energy? Everyone noticed her energy was different when you started than when you ended. And that's a good thing. Does anybody else have anything to tell Tina or Erin? Okay. So next week, if you didn't coach this week or last week, you're going to coach next week. Kim, you will not be with us, so you will not be coaching, but Courtney, you will be coaching. Erin, you will be coaching. And everybody else has coached already, correct? I just want to make sure. And then somebody will get to do it again. So great work. And I mean this, great work. You all are, the last week was great, but you can see such growth from last week to this week. Do you feel it? Do you see it? Experience it? You're all, I've already told Vi what rock stars you were last week, and you just continue to get better and to learn, and you're really paying attention to, and it's a good thing, because if we can't learn and grow, I've told you this before, after every coaching call, I say to myself, I take 5 minutes at least to kind of review and to ground before, if I have back-to-backs. What I'm going to put a little idea in your mind is that, as we continue, we're going to start talking about rolling this out to the rest of the system. So I'm going to invite you to think about 4 people, not that you're going to ask them, don't ask them yet, because we're going to talk about criteria, but think about 4 people that you know in your department, on your unit, that you think could be really good candidates for champion, that you would coach as champions when you're finished with this. I want you to start considering that. These are not people hanging by their fingernails. These are not people that need disciplinary action, but people you think that would be open to coaching. And we're going to talk about criteria. We'll get it open to coaching, have a passion for well-being, and are coachable. And you know what? Not everybody is. So especially the first group of people that you coach, we want them to be open, coachable, as far as we know, have a passion for well-being, want to do their own work, are willing to do some work to change. And even, when you interview, and we'll talk about criteria, you're still going to have resistance, but we don't want to talk, you don't need to take on the toughest people in your first group. So does that make sense to you? So just kind of keep that in mind. As I said, don't ask anyone yet, but just kind of keep in mind, because 4 people is how many will have a quarter, and I want you to think about who could be really good. Not necessarily because you're best friends, but because they would be open and they would have a passion to be sharing this, because champions, as you know, will be sharing this with others. Informally, not coaching others, but sharing it with others. And then eventually you'll get to coach coaches. So thank you for your great work today. Really great work, everybody. And thank you all for showing up and for your attention and your engagement and connecting with each other. I just want you to know you're all doing great. You are rock stars, and you need to feel really good about what you're doing. So I'll stay on like always if you have any questions, and have a great rest of your week, everybody. See you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, great job, everybody.
Hi, guys.